Picture this. You've been tracking your contractions. They're getting closer together. They're getting stronger. And suddenly, now there's this little voice in your head saying, is it time? You track a few more contractions. You check your app. Maybe you start to Google it or check your birth books. And now the doubt starts creeping in. Wait, am I actually ready for this? Because here's the thing. Most women think that if they just gather information, they're going to feel prepared once labor starts. But birth, it isn't a quiz that you need the right answers for to pass the test. It is a real-time experience that unfolds in your body. And if all you've done is learn without practicing how to actually use that knowledge when you're in labor, that's when you're going to see yourself freeze. That's when you're going to see yourself second guess. That's when you're going to walk into the hospital and suddenly feel like everything is moving too fast and it's happening to you and you just don't know what to do. And that's what we're going to change today. Because yes, you do need to know when to go to the hospital, but more than that, you need to be ready for what happens once you get there. The advice most people get: wait until contractions are 5 minutes apart, lasting 1 minute each for 1 hour, the 5-1-1 rule. But here's the problem. That's not always the best strategy. Some women have contractions 5 minutes apart for hours with no real cervical change. Others are going to go from 7 minutes apart to pushing in what feels like an infant. So mistiming it can actually have real consequences. If you go too early to the hospital, you're going to be stuck in the hospital before labor is really moving, hooked up to monitors, limited in movement, and more likely to be offered interventions in that setting that you don't actually need. And if you wait too long, you might find yourself panicked, barely making it on time, in a stressful whirlwind, struggling to advocate for yourself because labor is already really intense. And here's the thing. Knowing when to go is important. But once you walk through those hospital doors, everything shifts. You're suddenly now in a medical setting. You're surrounded by staff, you're surrounded with policies and protocols that a lot of people don't realize will probably impact their birth experience. And that's why knowing when to go is just one piece of the puzzle. You also need to know how to navigate once you get there. The reality is most first-time moms are going to spend about 8 to 12 hours in early labor before shifting to active labor. That means you typically have time. But you also need a better way to decide when to go besides just a blanket rule. And that is what we're going to cover today, so that you don't spend your time in labor second guessing yourself every contraction and wondering if you're making the right call. Instead, you're going to know exactly how to recognize the key signs of labor that truly means it's progressing beyond just contraction timing. You're going to learn the 3-stage framework that helps you decide without hesitation, and how to stay home longer to labor if you want to, which is a key for unmedicated birth, while making sure that your labor still progress. Welcome to Trust Your Birth Tuesday, where we cut through the noise, ditch the fear-based nonsense we've been fed about birth, and actually get you feeling prepared and confident as you head into labor. I'm Coco. I'm a birth doula and coach, a mama of 2, and someone who has spent a lot of time thinking about this exact topic during my first pregnancy. I wanted an unmedicated birth, but I was so anxious about going into the hospital too soon. I knew that being admitted too early could increase my chances of unwanted interventions, but I also didn't want to wait so long that I was panicked and barely making it on time. I wanted to trust my body, but I also didn't want to get it wrong. And I get why so many women stress about this, because it's not something that you can fully predict ahead of time. You can read all the guidelines, but when you are actually in it, everything feels a little bit more uncertain. But what I have learned is knowing when to go to the hospital is not just about contraction timing. It's about understanding the full picture of labor, recognizing key signs of progression, and knowing exactly what to look for so that you don't have to second guess yourself in the moment. And that's what we're covering today. So most people follow that 511 rule or 411 rule. Wait until the contractions are 5 or 4 minutes apart, lasting for 1 minute each for an hour before heading to the hospital. But sometimes that's not enough. Women follow this rule every single day and still walk into the hospital too soon, too late, or second guessing the decision. But why? Because knowing the rule is not the same as knowing how to read your body in the moment. And that's what first time moms usually miss. They track contractions like they're studying for a test, but they never actually practice tuning into their body's signals or deciding what to do when labor starts to pick up. And that is what I do inside of my birth coaching. We don't just teach you what to look for, we actually walk you through real birth scenarios so that you're not just watching the clock, you're learning how to trust what's happening in your body. Because when you're in labor, you're not going to want to be flipping through your notes or your books or second guessing yourself. You're going to just want to know. And research backs this up. Labor is not perfectly timed. It's not a predictable process. The old textbook model of dilation progressing 1 centimeter per hour, that has been debunked. Instead of relying only on contraction timing, you want to look at that full picture of labor. Here are the key signs that tell you that labor is actually progressing and it's time to start setting hen. So 1, a shift in focus. In early labor, contractions come and go, but in between, you're still engaged with the world around you. You might be texting your friends or watching a movie or taking a walk or even baking because, you're nesting, right? That's what women do. But as labor intensifies, you're going to start to tune out the world around you. You're going to stop responding to those texts. You're going to naturally close your eyes or go inward during your contractions. And typically, you're not going to be able to carry on a conversation the way that you could before. I want you to think about it like this. Early labor feels like warming up for a workout. You're aware of what is happening, but it's still completely manageable. Active labor feels like an intense sprint. You're fully focused and everything else kind of feeds into the background. This mental shift in focus is a sign that labor is picking up, and it's a good indication that you're moving into active labor. Now, number 2, a change in how you are coping. In early labor, you are managing contractions without really much effort. You might be breathing through them, you might be changing your positions or practicing your breathing techniques, and maybe you're even distracting yourself with small tasks, you're taking a nap, you're baking, whatever it may be. But as labor progresses, you're going to instinctively start leaning into the comfort measures that you practiced. Instead of just breathing, you might find yourself maybe moaning or humming or vocalizing. You probably are going to naturally walk or sway or get into positions that are feeling right for your body at that time. You're going to stop scrolling on your phone or watching Netflix. You are fully in it. Think of it like swimming in the ocean. Early labor is like standing in the shallow waves. You feel them, but they're really easy to navigate. Active labor is like being pulled into the deeper waves. You're now fully working with the waves instead of standing in them. If you find yourself instinctively closing your eyes, vocalizing, deeply concentrating, that is a really good sign that labor is moving forward. And 3, the nothing feels good stage. There comes a point when no position truly feels comfortable anymore. You have a sense of discomfort. You've tried different positions, but nothing really fixes the intensity of the contractions. You have maybe started doubting yourself, like, am I actually in labor? How much longer can I do this? You feel like now is the time that you really need your partner's full attention to get through the contractions. This stage is often a tipping point into active labor. A lot of women mistake this for losing control, when in reality, it's just a huge sign that labor is actually moving along. Research shows that this emotional shift often happens around 6-7 centimeters dilation right before labor is going to intensify into transition. So if you're feeling like you can't do this anymore, you are definitely in active labor and really getting close to that transition phase and pushing. So you're like towards the end of active labor and moving into that transition phase. So instead of only relying on contraction timing, I want you to ask yourself, what is going on with you and your body? Am I naturally tuning out the world around me? And I am instinctively leaning into comfort measures? Am I feeling like nothing really makes me comfortable anymore? If two or more of these things are happening, your labor is definitely progressing and you definitely need to start thinking about heading in. Instead of relying only on that contraction timing, use this 3-stage framework to decide when to go in without second guessing. This is going to help you avoid going in too early when labor isn't established yet. And it also ensures that you don't wait too long, risking a rushed or overwhelmed arrival. Now, of course, depending on where you live and how long it takes to get to the hospital, that timing can shift a little bit, but also something that you can discuss with your provider. Each of these stages gives you a clear physical and emotional sign to look for. So you're not just watching the clock, you're reading your body. Not that contraction timing is wrong, but it is perfect to use within this 3-step framework. Now, stage 1, like this is the definitely labor stage. What is happening? Your contractions are coming consistently and they aren't stopping. You feel a clear shift from early labor. They're getting stronger. And you can still walk, talk, and rest in between contractions, even if it's starting to feel a little bit uncomfortable. What you want to do at that phase is you want to stay home, you want to settle in, you want to eat, you want to hydrate, you want to move, you want to rest as much as possible. You don't want to rush to the hospital. If you can distract yourself, this is awesome. You just let your body do the work at this phase. This is when you want to conserve energy. So take a nap if you can. Many first-time moms mistake this as active labor because contractions are now feeling real and consistent. But if you can still move around easily, it's just not time yet. Stage 2, the I need to focus stage. What's happening? Contractions now demand your full attention. You can't ignore them. You usually are going to close your eyes, breathe deeply, and maybe even vocalize through contractions. You can't talk through contractions anymore, and you might be able to speak in between, but the contractions themselves are really needing your full attention. Now, here, I want you to get ready to go. This is your cue that things are moving along. You want to gather your things. You want to communicate with your provider and your partner. Check in with your birth team, make sure everything is in place. And if you're laboring at night and your partner is not awake at this moment, this is the time to wake up your partner and say, yeah, I think we need to leave soon. This is the stage when a lot of first-time moms hesitate and wondering if they should wait longer. But if your contractions are requiring deep focus and coping, it's a strong sign that active labor is fully underway. And stage 3, that nothing feels good stage that we talked about. What happens? Your body doesn't feel comfortable for long. You're moving instinctively, but nothing is quite working. You feel really intense pressure or urge to bear down, even if the water hasn't broken. You're starting to doubt yourself, question how much longer you can do this. And it's a sign that you're way closer than you think. Okay, you hopefully are already on your way to the hospital. You need to make sure that you have that confidence, like you are in it, right? Especially if you're doubting yourself. This is true active labor and you're actually getting really close to the transition phase. You're feeling rectal pressure and an urge to push. That means that you're getting really close to pushing if you're not there yet. So hopefully you went at that stage 2 time and you're in the hospital during this transition phase because you're getting really close to meeting your baby. This is definitely time. You're almost there. A lot of women are going to mistake this self-doubt for losing control, but really this is just part of that process. It's a strong indicator that your baby is going to be in your arms super soon. So instead of just timing contractions, I want you to follow this simple guide. If you can still talk through your contractions, stay home. If you need to focus, it's probably time to go. If you're using those coping measures, if you're now moving instinctively, and you also are timing those contractions at that 5 of 1, 4-1-1 rule, along with these other things that are happening, it's time to go. If nothing feels good and you're doubting yourself, you really need to make sure that you're getting there because you're getting towards that transition and that pushing phase. This takes the guesswork out of it and it helps you walk into the hospital at the right time, confident, in control, and ready. This framework makes it easy to decide when to go, but the problem is most women learn this, but when labor actually starts, they second guess themselves because just knowing a framework isn't the same as using it under pressure. It isn't the same as embodied preparation. When you're in labor, you're not going to be sitting there calmly going through a checklist. You are going to be in the middle of contractions, feeling like everything feels really intense, and you're going to be trying to make a call while also managing what's happening in your body. That's why inside my birth coaching, we don't just go over these decision-making frameworks. We actually practice them in real-time scenarios and figure out how can you embody this preparation so that you don't hesitate, you don't second guess, you just know. If you want to labor at home longer, which is highly suggested if you want an unmedicated birth, the key is to balance movement, rest, and your environment. Your body already knows how to birth your baby, but small shifts in how you move, rest, and settle into labor can make all the difference when things start progressing. So important things, movement and gravity. Staying upright and mobile helps contractions stay consistent and encourages your baby to descend into an optimal position. Walking, swaying, bouncing on a birth ball, or all use gravity and assist in labor. Even simple position changes, like maybe you're shifting from hands to knees to a deep squat, those can all make contractions feel way more effective. If labor slows down, maybe you stand up, you start doing lunges, you start leaning over a counter. This can help bring things on track. Research shows that laboring in upright positions can shorten total labor time with an average of 1 hour compared to lying down. That's huge. It may not seem like a lot of time right now, but that is big when you're in labor. Other thing is rest when you can. Labor is a marathon. It is not a sprint. If contractions are still mild and spaced out, resting between them can help conserve energy for the more intense stages that are about to come. If lying down makes contractions slow, try a side lying position with a pillow in between your legs instead of laying completely flat. Warm water can be a really powerful tool. So standing in the shower can really calm your muscles, calm your energy, relax your mind without stalling that progress. Studies show that exhaustion increases the likelihood of needing medical interventions like epidurals or assisted deliveries. So this is truly the time to rest and relax. Rest when possible. You set yourself up for endurance in active labor. And you want to make sure you set the right environment. Your body is wired to labor best when it feels safe, relaxed, and undisturbed. If contractions slow down, sometimes changing something as simple as your lighting, noise level, or even your location can help. Keeping the lights dim signals your brain to relax, boosting oxytocin, which is the hormone that drives contractions. Too much distraction, like scrolling on your phone or answering texts, that can pull you out of the labor mindset, slowing progress. Stress, bright lights, too much activity, that actually is proven to inhibit oxytocin and make labor stall. So your goal is to stay home longer while keeping labor moving. Make sure that you focus on staying active in ways that feel good, resting when you can, and creating a calm, safe environment that lets your body do what it's designed to do. The more that you can labor at home, the more control that you have. But here's the reality. No matter how long you labor at home, if the second guessing starts the second that you step into the hospital, it's a whole new environment. Suddenly you're being monitored, you're being asked questions, you're expecting to make quick decisions, and all of this is happening while your contractions are intensifying. And if you don't know what to expect and you don't know how to handle those first interactions in the hospital, that honestly can really be a game changer in shifting away from actually what you wanted in your birth experience. And that's why with my birth coaching clients, we cover not just laboring at home, but exactly what happens once you enter that hospital so that you don't have to walk in unassured. You get to walk in feeling confident, feeling the best, and really knowing what to do. So when labor starts, it's really easy to get caught up in timing contractions, watching the clock, and second guessing when to leave for the hospital. But the truth is, knowing when to go is not just about the timing. We've learned what to look for. It's about reading that full picture of labor. You don't just have to rely on 511 or 411 rule. Pay attention to those real signs that we've covered of labor progression. If you're still able to talk through those contractions and go about your day, stay home. There is no rush. But as labor intensifies and you really need to focus, that is your cue to get ready and get going. If nothing feels good anymore, I hope that you're close to the hospital, you're heading into that transition and that pushing phase. You are ready. Using the 3-stage framework takes the guesswork out of it in deciding when to leave. You're not just watching the clock, you're reading your body, you're coping, the natural shifts that are happening in your body as labor progresses. And if you want to stay home longer, make sure that you think about movement, rest, and setting up the right environment. That's all going to help you with labor, with confidence and control. Most women walk away from a class like this like, okay, I feel so much more informed. I've got this. I understand a lot more. And that's great. But being informed is not the same as being prepared. It's not just about watching this video multiple times so that you think that it just sinks in there. Because here's the thing, when to go to the hospital is not the last time you're going to make a decision in labor. Knowing when to go is important, but the second you walk into that hospital, everything changes. You're in a new environment, you're being monitored, you're being asked questions, and are you prepared for that? That is when birth starts to feel like something is happening to you instead of something that you're actively navigating. That is where my Empower Method birth coaching comes in. I don't want you to just feel informed. I want you to feel ready, prepared, confident, and in control as you're walking into that hospital. If today's session made you realize that you don't want to just consume information, you want to actually practice, prepare, and walk into birth feeling completely confident, then this is your chance. I want you to apply for my Empower Method birth coaching. Spots are limited, and once they fill, they're gone. And I want you to get the help that you're finally ready for, the help that you need. And if you're still on the fence, don't worry about it. After you apply, you have the chance to have a free birth prep strategy session with me, one-on-one, for 20 minutes, so I can answer any of those questions that you may have about your birth. Don't wait. If you're ready to stop second guessing every decision and you actually want to feel prepared and ready for birth and have someone there to guide you step by step, this is your chance. And now is the time to take action. I cannot wait to see all of you next week as we dive into another hot topic about unmedicated birth prep and truly get you ready to prepare. And I also cannot wait to see all those mamas who are ready to step inside my birth coaching.